me hit record. Don't feel bad about anything, man. I'm very proud of you. Cage had, one of those days that depends
late
on how you
recording
look.
today, guys. Late recording. Andrew should be asleep by now.
The way you look at it, I mean, you maxed out the day, and
still a lot to go. I got to cook. It's St. Patrick's Day, but I will say this: Luca Nation, we're back. It's episode 944. I got some DMs recently. People liked when a question was thrown to you, and you were able to kind of, go out there and handle it, right? You were able to, here you go. So I got a mystery guest, and he's going to ask you a question.
Who do you think's going to win?
in life, your dad. You're going to win, Ian.
Bayern or Man City?
Bayern or Man City?
Wow. Is that the next matchup?
Is that the next matchup?
Wow.
Jacqueline?
Go ahead.
Real Madrid, Chelsea.
Real Madrid, Chelsea. He's watching soccer. And
these are some really good matchups. I didn't realize that.
Milan
versus Barca.
Napoli?
Is it Barca?
Benfica.
Okay. All right. So he's. Did you give your soccer cards that we broke at the Philly show? Did you give them to your friends?
Or no.
No.
No one wanted them.
No one wanted them.
Or it's either Napoli.
Nobody wants soccer cards. I say it all the time, pal.
Versus AC Milan.
Cantaloupe. Thank you.
He's 100% right. So I'll recap for you guys.
He's doing a little soccer, man. He likes soccer.
Benfica, Inter, Man City, Bayern, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Milan, Napoli. These are the quarterfinals of Champions League. And my Chick-fil-A got delivered. What do I think?
That's cantaloupe.
I think I want to come back to when you said that you're cooking on St. Paddy's Day, because I want to dig into what that means. You never cook. Why is St. Paddy's Day so significant? I want to learn before we go there.
Yeah.
I think Napoli is a very interesting team. They're a team of destiny.
Used to be a catcher.
Mike Napoli, exactly. Napoli is a team of destiny. I actually haven't had a chance to prepare for these games, so Ian caught me off guard. I apologize, but Napoli, I actually have Napoli in the finals
against
their team
Haaland.
of destiny. Haaland with 5 goals is incredible. I still don't think he fits the system perfectly. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to know whether Man City was going to win their next game against who was it? Chelsea?
No.
Bayern. So he's going to say Man City.
It's an incredible matchup. It's an incredible matchup of two complete teams, two complete programs, top to bottom. Both clubs do things the right way. Either could take it. I have no prediction. It's going to be a beautiful match. It's hard to bet against Guardiola in Champions League, but Bayern is really interesting. They're this advanced metrics type of team. So every player wears a heart rate monitor, Cage, and they know to the minute when their performance is dropping based on heart rate and other metrics to know when to pull players off. They're an incredible team.
It's no more like digging down for that extra something, That late goal Pele scored in the World Cup that he wouldn't have scored because they would have taken him out because his heart monitor said that he was a little tired.
Anthony Davis can't play back-to-back, so they lose to Houston. Who would have said that? The load management staff wouldn't allow Anthony Davis, a grown man who's fit, professional athlete at 30 years old, not to play back-to-backs. Anyway.
Well, they don't want to hurt him. They want him for the long term. But yes, a loss against Houston. That was not so good. I saw that. That was pretty terrible. Yeah.
Dibs.io has gone under, or they pivoted. We could talk about that if you have any opinions.
Yeah,
Markets this week have been very interesting. I don't know if you have any takes on, macroeconomically what you're thinking about, dividend stocks. We talked about that tangentially. And then hobby-wise, is there anything hobby-wise? It'll be a quicker episode. It'll probably be 25, 30 minutes tops. We'll graze over
lots of interesting things. I have a topic for you.
Please.
It's baseball, and we all know baseball famously is dying because they can't get out of their own way. But this one is going to be a topic, I think, even though you're not baseball.
High school, man, where old jokes are still new 40 years later. Jesus. They'll never. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You know me. You know what I'm going to respond.
Yes. Whenever I say something about soccer, you say Guardiola and think it makes you sound smart. I know. I get it. I understand. Even if it has nothing to do with anything he's involved in, the dude could be dead for a decade and he's still coaching his way.
He coaches Man City, the team.
I don't know what that means, but it's the Guardiola method, and Holland, it's just not going to fit with the way Guardiola coaches. I sound so smart. Bah, 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 bah. Anyway, so baseball.
Is that my tone? Luca Nation, do I give off that tone?
Yeah.
Because like deep inside,
It's very smug.
I'm insecure.
Like Guardiola.
I'm insecure. I'm always trying to learn.
Pep Guardiola.
Pep Guardiola. Pep, he says it's Pep. There you go. You're not insecure. Shove it. So anyway, I'll go back to my question. Then you'll actually let me ask it this time. Because you can answer it, and it will show that you have the ability to answer questions outside of just a small breath. You can answer questions about baseball, even though you think it's a sport that's going to die. Because if you listen to the question, it is hobby specific, it's relevant, it's fun. Not that famous Dodger, Bo Bichette. Sorry, Jeff. I don't know why I do that. Sorry, Jeff Wilson. I like Jeff Wilson. I'll smoke a cigar with that guy soon. Here's the question. There is the World Baseball Classic, where players are allowed to play for their country, right?
Yeah.
Italy's playing games. The USA team is playing games. Shohei gets to face Mike Trout. Where else would you see that if not for the WBC? It's Olympic in nature, right? It's a lot of soccer tournaments, right? The Copa. There's a lot of these things where the guys get to play for their country in addition to playing for their team. So this is something that happens a lot in soccer, so you can kind of chime in. Do you think the professional teams, with the amount of money that they're investing in their players, should limit professional athletes' ability to play in something like this? Because I don't know if you saw this, but the Mets closer, Edwin Diaz, was injured celebrating a victory. I think it was Puerto Rico over the Dominican Republic. After it was done, he tore his patella tendon. Like, he's out for the year.
You sort of actually said it there. He didn't actually tear it in the game. He tore it celebrating. Do you remember there was a kicker, I think he was on the Buccaneers, who kicked the field goal, did like a backflip and tore his ACL?
Martin Gramatica, I think is who it was,
Martin Gramatica. This guy doesn't miss. He doesn't. I think we've done too much with injury culture, man. Injuries are part of the game. They just are. And to limit a player from playing in games in the hope that he brings you more success on the field is sort of, what is this? I don't know the phrase, but it's like shooting yourself in the foot and hoping. Like, he also gets practice. He gets confidence. He feels good. How do you quantify that, right? How do you quantify those intangibles of playing for your country, being a part of something else? Would you rather your athlete go on vacation for 4 months and party and do nothing? Is that really better? So, no, I mean, at the end of the day, like, injuries happen. I think these are grown. I don't think these are adults. Mm-hmm. And the chips.
It's a conversation that comes up every now and again. Usually, it's when there's a bad injury like this. Remember when Paul George got injured playing for Team USA? Horrible, gruesome leg injury. You don't remember that? Oh, it was
Paul George. Why did I think of Paul Pierce? I apologize. Yes,
no,
I do.
Because you like to shit your pants, and so does he. So no, but Paul George. What
the fuck?
Yesterday he did an interview and said it wasn't what it was. That he hurt his knee or something like that. He wasn't that he put his pants. So no. Paul George, we played for Team USA. Remember, he hit like the leg stanchion. He hit the goal stanchion, like he hit his leg on the supports for the basket, and he was done. I mean, it was a bad leg injury. And I remember the same conversation coming up then, and it was a hot topic of like, these players, they make too much money. Their team shouldn't let them do this. And I was curious what your thought was. It's kind of what I expected you to say. There was a benefit. Right?
We had two coaches in college. One was Lou Mule, old school guy, and the other was Doug Hess. Lou would never let us play anywhere in the summer. He would say, no, you can't play. I don't want you getting injured. Like, we'll open up the field here. You can practice here, but you can't go and play in any leagues. And there's like Q23 leagues. There's those types of leagues. Our other coach came in and he actually recruited NPSL and kind of right below the professional level. He talked to them to get us to play on those teams. And the results spoke for themselves. Our team was significantly better under Doug because you have to play. You have to get reps. You have to, if you don't lose it, if you don't use it, you lose it. You have to play. You have to play. You have to play. And I actually would argue that the obsessiveness and being in the game all the time is limit injuries.
Okay. I mean, I think the best point you had there is, these are lightning strikes, right? Injuries happen whenever they happen. And even this one here, it happened while celebrating. It wasn't even during the game action. It was after. And yeah, if he wasn't in WSB, he wouldn't have been there celebrating. But who knows? Maybe he would have been celebrating Princeton.
I didn't actually watch the highlight. Like, what happened?
They went out after, and they were kind of jumping up and down with him. Like, oh, celebrating on the mound. And the next thing you know, they're calling everybody out, saying, he's on the ground.
Wait, they were holding him up?
No. They were just kind of like jumping with him. You know what I mean? So he was kind of jumping up and down, and obviously one of them, hit the wrong way or, talked his knee. Or, I mean, there wasn't, because there was a crowd, you can't really see it, from all the video angles that I saw. But
so when there's like game winners, like college basketball, Furman just, scored how they like rush the player?
Yeah.
And sometimes they rush the court. I'm surprised there's not more injuries during that. Like, it's just chaos.
It's happened.
And then like players dive on other players, and then they're like, I'm like, how has there not been injuries? Like,
it's kind of silly, the celebration injuries, right? I mean, and there's an easy way to stop it. I mean, you can stop people from celebrating with you. Look, when Jose Altuve had the buzzer on under his shirt, he came around third and told people, just don't take my shirt off because he has a bad tattoo. That was what it was there. Houston Yankees is an interesting rivalry. It's one that would never, like, geographically never made sense, but it's a rivalry, huh? Yeah. Celebrating, man. Yeah, I mean, I like that rivalry. Oh, it's a recent rivalry, right? So also I wanted to just throw in Kendry Morales broke his leg and was out for 4 months when he celebrated a home run too. Same kind of thing. Just snap
switch leg. Hitter, right?
Yeah. But the Houston thing, it's only a rivalry now. Like, I want to. It's good that they've won a couple times. It's good they won this last time also, because they would have been like 1-for-5 or something like that had they not. But, prior to this, I wouldn't have called Houston, New York a rivalry before like the last 5-6 years. I would have sat there one of the worst high posts like this with my Draymond. Anyone can win in March. You can't call it a rivalry. We got 4 championships. Win when it matters. Then it could be a rivalry. But Houston has won recently, and the Yankees haven't. So you have to give them their credit. They've gotten the better of us the last couple of years.
I did a story poll, and I asked our community who they would rather have on their team, Draymond or Dennis Rodman.
And 50-50 split right down the middle.
80-20 Rodman to Draymond. 80-20. Where, objectively speaking, Draymond is significantly better than Rodman. Significantly, in my opinion.
I think it's mostly because Rodman looks better in a wedding gown. I think it's probably.
You think it's the revisionist history? We always look back at history with like these flowers and current day
glasses. Yes.
With
flowers. Look back with flowers. You're 100% right about it, and I think that the skill set that Rodman brings is probably better. The worm was. I mean, what's funny is Draymond doesn't have to score. It's a very good comparison. Because Rodman didn't want to score. He just wanted to get his rebounds, right? And Draymond's another one of those players where I think he could score. If he needed him to score, I think you put him on a team that doesn't have Steph, Clay, and Jordan Poole. I think he would score 15, 20 a game. Easy. I think he can score.
The reason I also asked is I think people don't see Draymond's playmaking in the sense that he runs that offense, even if he's not averaging 10, 12 assists a game, most of that offense starts and runs through him. And I don't think Rodman did that. So in addition to the defense, which I think they're pretty even defensively, rebounding, I would give that famous last dance, like it goes here. But from just like a quarterbacking perspective, I think Draymond is super underrated.
Listen, I think you're probably right. I think the Worm had this uncanny ability to give those Bulls teams extra possessions. Offensive rebounding was a forte, and I know that is with Draymond. It's different now because it's long range shots. I feel like there are more rebounds up for grabs. Back then, what made Rodman special, he wouldn't be as special today in today's game because he was able to worm his way inside and even layups. You'd figure the defender would be right there. He'd find a way to get under their skin like Draymond did, but also get that rebound, even though it was close. It was mostly 2-point shots. It was, running through the lane, and he still found a way to get those rebounds.
I'm nodding along in impressiveness because you're 100% right about that take.
But it's
I know our audience agrees with your takes, like vehemently, like you get blown up, like, oh, great take, like I agree with you, like love this. I actually sit here, I'm on the opposite side of most of these. But this one, I agree. The long rebounds in today's day and age versus
it's different
rebounding in a crowd.
Yeah. And I mean, he wasn't getting gimme rebounds. Like the team wasn't clearing out and saying, "Okay, let's get Rodman his rebounds." I mean, he was doing it on the offensive boards, mostly. But hey, I mean, that's a great question, and really, it's almost like I don't know. Would he evolve into today's game? Would he have to pass? Would he have to develop a 3-point shot to use every now and again? And would he work on that? Would he have time to work on it between all the other crap that he was doing? Whereas, Draymond's probably putting in the time in the gym when he needs to. It
Would
almost
he switch out and guard perimeter players?
He was actually a very good defender. He was a very good perimeter defender early in his career. When he was on the Pistons. And he actually shot the ball pretty well, too, with the Pistons. He just stopped doing it.
Collectors love Rodman.
I like that.
Rodman is one of the guys that is collected. I don't want to say on the Jordan level, but he has his own collector base. It's not like Rodman rookie cards or pennies.
Yeah. And you don't really have a comp for him. And it's weird to see it, right? Because he wasn't like a offensive juggernaut. I think Draymond, the point you're trying to make, and it's a correct point, is maybe his cards don't reflect his value. Like if you were building a team, you'd rank him high because he's one of those cornerstones of a team. He's a building block. He's somebody you could build around, somebody who's selfless, somebody who, can be the third option, fourth option on a team, but does all the things and, builds culture, runs the offense, doesn't need the stats, but that doesn't usually translate to somebody that people want to buy their cards. It's an interesting.
Do you think maybe long term that there will be though?
Maybe. I mean, look, he still every ring Steph has, Draymond has. You know what I mean? So he's still going to be one of those guys that has a ton of rings. He's going to a ton of championships. And
culturally relevant.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he's sort of the Barkley-esque of our generation. I mean, he's very outspoken. He has this podcast. He has that channel.
Yep. He's only slightly higher ranked in sports podcasts than we are in Hong Kong. We've made the official rankings. I told you that today. So I will take a second now before we pivot into another topic. Thank you to our listeners in Hong Kong. Thank you for listening and and building up our numbers in Hong Kong. That's a first this week. We got a pretty high ranking in sports podcasts overalls.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. It's me. So we got that. You want me to talk about Dibs? It's not surprising to me that Dibs is pivoting into something that they are, that they're gonna, bank on. The fractional model that we talked about, and the area that Dibs was operating in. It's very difficult right now because a lot of these companies started and got bigger at a time where the markets overall, the card market for one, but overall markets were much more frothy. You know what I mean? There was investment money out there for we really probably should have done a funding round because somebody would have thrown a couple $1 million at it because we would have just said the word hobby. And it's like, boom, here you go, hobby. It doesn't matter. You got the word hobby, funding, put a deck together, just draw it, stick figures, Andrew smiling, soccer
Can I ask
ball,
you a question?
page 4, Guardiola, and boom, money. No?
Now that you've been in a business for 2 years, 3 years actually, going on 3 years, would you have done it different? Would you have wanted to raise money, or do you think the way
100%. On July 17th.
Just listen to the question.
I already know the answer.
When
you sent me the Zoom, I would have sent the Zoom link to Shayway Vlogs. I would have said, here, Andrew, meet Shayway, do a show. That's what I would have changed.
Dude, Shay's funny, man.
I wouldn't change a damn thing. Nothing. Because life is the journey, not the destination.
Okay, so he'd never go. If Cage. So I got a new puppy. If Cage was the dog, he'd be the puppy that's pulling in all the different directions. Why I ask is it kind of ties into the economy. So last Friday, basically when we're recording this, there was like the unraveling of SVB Bank, where basically the gist is with interest rates going up, the bank was invested in treasuries. Those treasuries lost value because interest rates went up and they were underwater. They had to sell them for a discount. The bank went under, and this week Bitcoin went up close to 15%, Cage?
Yep.
Maybe more. NASDAQ was up, up 6%. Now sitting today, S&P is down 8%, Cage, from all-time high.
Yeah, Bitcoin was up another 8% today, by the way. It's at $27,000.
27, right? So you have this. And if we look at the froth, Cage is that word, where people would get investments on businesses that had no proof of concept, right? It was an idea. There was no, the market actually needs this. It was, here's money. Let's see if the market needs this. Completely two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am so interested if the market is lagging and hasn't realized the Dibses of the world are going to start crumbling down. And how are we sitting near all-time highs with all of this froth still in the system?
Well, what's sitting at all-time highs?
So S&P, like
Well,
isn't that's crazy to even hear, Cage? You know what's so funny? I said that, I put that in the story post, and some guy came in to argue it. I sent him back data, and then he says, "Well, you guys like to post clickbait." It's just a chart. It's just a chart. Like I have no vested interest in this, but in the past year, it's down 12.24%.
Okay.
So all-time high is
46 and change, right?
47.66, which let's use that. So it's 47.66, which was December 31st of 2021.
Yeah, that's more than a year.
And now it's 39.16. So there's your guys' number, 12 to 15, depending on where you guys. But yeah, 12%, Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Banks are going under. We have a war on our hands. Facebook has now, laid off 20,000 people. Interest rates are going up. Inflation through the roof. Cost of living going up. Have we priced in, like we say, the Jordan Fleer, which we use as kind of a benchmark, PSA 10, is 120, 150. I know one ended on PWCC. It was an E for 250. We could talk about that.
One of the nicest ones I've ever seen, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You zoomed in, you did the damn thing?
No, Rick and I talked about it at Brigandy's Collectors event. That's one
it's
of the
really
nicest.
that nice?
Yeah, it's a nice
Damn.
one.
And we're like, have we seen a bottom? But in reality, Cage, things haven't even corrected. Thoughts?
Oh, I think they have. I think that we were in a nice run there, and they've completely corrected and lost all the game. If you look at the prices back in October, we were starting to run up a little bit. We're starting to move up. Look what the S&P was. Everything. Look at
everything. Okay.
Look at what the S&P was. A month and a half ago. I mean, it has really shaved off a lot of its gains in the last month, 2 months, you name it. So you could see. I mean, it was starting to move and it's kind of come down a little bit.
Flat over the last 6 months. So let's
6. Yeah.
Over the last year, it's down 2. Over the last year to date, it's up 2%. Over the last year, it's down 12.24%.
But you see, it's. I mean, that if you look at that chart there, that's a nice little, slow and steady, decrease, with peaks and valleys. But I'm not going to come on here and say crash. Stuff has lost. I mean, you want to take certain segments, right? I mean, you take Dibs. I would compare a Dibs to a tech company. Throw up. You can throw up any of them. Throw up Google. Throw up Facebook. I mean, some of those guys have actually rebounded a little bit because of earnings and stuff, but they're down tremendously from their highs. Look at like a Netflix stock. Look at and these are all things that are not going away, but they're all beaten down pretty badly from their highs. I mean, you have one indicator, the S&P 500, which has got a constant churn of what's in it and not in it. Go ahead.
On Meta, just to give Cage credit, $378 was its high September 10th of 2021. It was as low as $88, and it's rebounded to $195. So actually a very volatile stock. Typically a company like this isn't volatile, but down 50% from its highs, up 100% from its lows.
Correct.
Whichever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it's bounced recently, but it hit some low. I mean, look, there's turmoil in the markets, there's uncertainty, there's, elections coming down the pike. But I think really, what you're seeing here is that even through all the turmoil, maybe amidst all that uncertainty, you do see a financial system that does step in and provide sort of a net, right? And maybe that does give people, a little comfort in their investments.
Right, is what they used.
Yeah. I mean,
we're in a really interesting time where I love this quote, where an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. So with the one bank failing and there being a bank stop, Cage, now there's this sort of precedent set for the future, right? Because you have Jerome Powell who says, we're going to raise interest rates until inflation comes down. And on the other side, you have, well, if you keep raising inflation rates, you're going to put banks out of business, right? What happens? And you might sit here thinking, how does that apply to the hobby? Do you think it does?
No, I don't. I think the hobby is, a small niche alternate asset. I think it's difficult to kind of compare things like the S&P to them. I mean, it's always great. It's fun to do, but there are leading indicators and lagging indicators. People try to compare real estate to, to cards. I consider cards more of, like a luxury item. I consider cards more of a, something that is a nice to have rather than a need to have. Whereas stocks in companies like, Bristol Myers Squibb, which makes medicine, those are now, that's an investment in something someone needs to have. And you'll notice that different types of investments, they react differently. You would, what I'd like to think from an optimistic standpoint is cards have seen their drop, right? Because they're the first ones to drop. Everything else kind of followed cards. Rolex has dropped, wines.
So luxury goods are actually a leading indicator, would you say?
I think so, yes.
Cool.
I think so.
That's fair.
And
I'm
within the
curious,
market,
you
there
guys
are different
listening.
segments also, right? So, I mean,
Right.
like people will give up, certain things, right? Certain luxury, like cruise stocks, vacation stocks, luxury stocks. When the market is sort of, condensing and the market's getting worse, you see less people spending money on those luxury type items, and those companies' stocks usually are impacted initially. Whereas a Starbucks, not so much, because people are very hesitant to give up their couple of dollar coffee every day. They're going to spend that. It's only a couple bucks. And, like McDonald's usually does well. Right?
So what did I ask you guys? Walmart is another one. Usually does well. Costco, right? Costco's. What do you guys think? Do you think that luxury goods, cards are a leading indicator? And I'll tell you guys why I bring this topic up, because I think one lagging indicator hasn't been taken into equation that will impact cards. And I say this not to be doom and gloom that a crash is coming. I say this because I remember how difficult it was for me to sell cards during that October period.
Mhm.
And I want to people who listen to understand that, saying that if I'm holding X card, I might not be able to exit out of it the way I want. Not the doom and gloom. And the lagging indicator, Cage, is unemployment. And I wonder how many Covites like Andrew, who are lazy, who doesn't like to work, who started a podcast, who didn't go back into the market, I don't think that they're captured in unemployment rate. And now you also have these people who are getting
especially
laid
not
off.
the ones in Mexico.
Definitely not. These people that are getting laid off from tech companies. I wonder if we start to see an increase in the unemployment rate over the next 12 to 18 months. That's what I'm saying.
It's okay, because most Andrews were in crypto in 2013, 14, and now with Bitcoin going up, they're all independently wealthy again. They don't have to go back to work. That's how this works. No, but I mean, listen, I'd like to think that, maybe there is an uncoupling. Maybe, Bitcoin will now travel up, crypto will travel up as the, traditional currencies and traditional markets maybe go down. Maybe they are that hedge against inflation, hedge against, especially when the markets are collapsing based on the alleged collapse of the monetary system. I'd like to think that's why Bitcoin is moving up. And I also like to think, if I'm going to take the glass half full against your glass half empty, a lot of the run that happened last time in cards and luxury items, I believe, was fueled by a run in crypto. And I believe if you take those charts and match it up, the Jordan 10 that you talked about as an indicator probably reached its high right around the time Bitcoin was reaching its high. Pretty close.
Say that again for people, because Cage said something very interesting. And as people that have been in crypto for a long time, we've talked about it, but it never happened, was the decoupling. Say it one more time, because you said it fast.
Well, I mean, so different crypto coupled with each other, Bitcoin and Ethereum is one, but the thought is Bitcoin was supposed to be a hedge against inflation. Bitcoin was supposed to be, a place that you could put your money, sort of like gold, that when the market is bad and people are concerned and people are nervous about the dollar, the paper money, the institutions, that
if banks
could
could even give you money,
quality, right? Could they? You better have your own Bitcoin. You better have your own alternate currency. So now I believe what is fueling the run up in crypto, Bitcoin specifically, is people are saying now they're questioning the bank. They're questioning the banking system and saying, what do you mean if I have $100,000 in the bank, I can't go get my $100,000? Like, no, that's most of the money in the system is sort of digital anyway. It's sort of, just
digital, but not under your control.
Correct.
Versus digital within your control.
Correct. But I mean, listen, crypto. Let's not just bring it out there as a champion. It's on exchanges anyway. You saw what happened with FTX, and I mean, people thought they owned crypto and didn't. So.
My mom was a little upset with me. She's like, I was like, hey, have you been watching? She's like, no. Ever since you told me to use FTX, we had $300 in there, and I was like, shit, I didn't even know I told you about FTX. Why I'm saying that is, you don't have to be invested in any of the markets we've talked about to watch them. To have a stock signal, to have alerts, no different than you have eBay alerts. Why I tell you to watch it is if you're a collector and you're in the hobby to just buy cards, it's sort of irrelevant the prices of the cards, right? You're trying to buy the cards you love, you go to shows, but if the prices of cards do matter, I believe this other economic stuff, having a pulse on it, especially as the year winds down, the next 9 months are going to be very interesting. And I recommend just keeping a pulse on it.
There you go. NCAA, madness as always. Virginia, I don't know what's going on with you guys. And then, Princeton. Huge Princeton, Princeton win there.
Don't mess with Tigers.
I don't mess with the Tigers. I had I didn't do a bracket. I didn't do a bracket at all this year. I just didn't have time. I didn't have time. But I'm having lunch yesterday before the game started, and the kid I'm eating lunch with says, give me one game. And I said, UCLA is favored by 18, 19 points. They create a huge amount of turnovers, and the team they're playing against, they lead the league in turnovers. So they're going to cover easy. And he messaged me today, and he's like, what's your pick for today? And I'm like, did UCLA play? I didn't even know when they were playing. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, they played. I'm like, well, did they win by 18 or 19? He's like, they won by 33. I didn't play it. Now you got to give me one. And what is it about us that the wins, the losses, these things stick with us? Why is it that when he told me they covered by 33, I was mad at myself for not finding a way to bet it? Right? Why is it that I spent the next hour saying, I found money for this, I bought this card, and I have this stock, and they're all down, but the one game I'm sure about it, and I didn't find a way to put some money on the Cubbies to win the World Series? Why is that? Why is that human nature that now I didn't lose money, but I consider it a loss? Why is it that these things stick with us?
The loss of future gains?
Is it the gambling? Are we all, maybe I'm just wired like a lunatic. I can tell you, it's funny. I passed by Quick Draw. It's like a lotto game where they balls come out. You can bet on one ball, one number. There's 80 numbers. I pass by people playing this. They just sit there and play it. And I always think to myself the same exact thing. I'm going to sit down and play this. I'm going to play it. I rarely do. But what pops in my brain when I think about playing it is I remember it was right after my younger brother turned 18. I was 20. We were at Jade Island. I don't even know if this place still exists. It's an Asian restaurant in Staten Island. And at the bar, they had Quick Draw, right? My father, my brother, myself, we ate. And we were gavones. It was like $80. My brother,
right around there. That's the going rate.
He goes up to pay the bill, and he puts $10 on Quick Draw, 8 and 80 were the numbers he played. Why do I remember this? Why? And I'm asking this. Why are we wired as gambling lunatics? And of course, both came up, and it was an 8-1. He got $80 and paid for dinner. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I was like, oh my God. Now every time I pass, I'm like, I'm going to pay for dinner. I'm going to play Quick Draw. I'm going to play. And I've gambled 1,000,000 times since. I always lose. But I always remember that Jade Island story. Why? What is it? What is it? What's going on in our brains? This is a question for you.
I will say I have the same feeling. So I remember back to my gambling days. Let's say you have a slate of games, right? You pick your 10 games. There's always 1 or 2 games you leave off. And anytime one of those 2 games that you leave off goes in your favor,
I knew it.
I knew it. You literally play.
I knew it.
Something's
killing me here.
The six human needs. I think one is gambling plays on that element of uncertainty, and we need that. We love that.
I always forget the 6 human needs, just for our listeners: Chick-fil-A, Swedish Fish, Hugs, What was it? What? No. Yeah.
I will tell you though, it's not everybody, and this is where, like, I'll tell you, my sister doesn't have this, so she called me with the bracket, and today we're actually in second place in her whole organization.
And she just picked based on the team that had the most red in their uniform.
Well, I picked, and then the ones that were 50-50 were up to her. Furman, we picked them, by the way. Shout out.
The Paladins.
I think it's why we're in this hobby. We love speculation. We like thinking that we're smart or we might know something that the market doesn't, putting our opinion at stake or our money at stake, and then seeing if we're right. That excitement is very captivating, but it cuts both ways. It's like a fire that if you get too close to it, it will burn you. And speaking from existence, it's burned me more than once. I'm not someone who learns, like, they say, like, make the mistake once, whatever, make it twice.
Shame on you. Shame, yeah. Make it twice, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Sometimes I get to like double digits of like fools.
You're fooled 10 times and still doing it.
Yeah, like I'm like, you're such a fool. So, but I'm with you, man. It is human nature, but it's
I'm
not
telling you. I'm like, he texted me. He's like, yeah, they won by 33. I'm like, son of a. Now I got to go find my next one. I got to chase because now I got to bet twice as much on a team that I wasn't as sure of, and I get crushed. But I didn't bet it. But I definitely was thinking about it today. I'm like, NCAA is fun. I haven't watched any games. I'll probably watch the night games tonight. A couple of other things maybe we'll have to do. Listen, I still owe an episode with you about set collecting and the neuroses that go into set collecting and how it could be a good thing if it's the right set. We still have to dedicate. I get a lot of DMs. When are you going to do that? So we'll have to do a set episode. Yeah, a lot. Because they're all set collectors out there. I think they want some love. Unfortunately, I think the crux of the episode you might not like it, set collectors. I'll throw you a little love, but for the most part, most set collectors.
Is it going to be you telling the story about your Pokemon cards? Because I'm kind of sick of it.
No. I mean, I have other sets, but I'm
still a little upset at you about not finishing the set.
Please. I'm upset at myself for not selling it 50 times.
What's the point of being a high-end lawyer, respected, getting invited to Briganda? You can't shell out for a Charizard? When
I meet a high-end respected lawyer, I'll ask him all your questions.
All right, tell Roger.
Yeah, he's not a lawyer, but no. So here's the fun, right?
You revoked his license.
No, we want to do that. There's there have been so many auctions. I mean, Ben Franklin cards selling. There's been, the Black Lotus, Magic card sold for over $500,000, which is pretty crazy. Did
you see it was signed on the case? How dumb is that?
Why do you think it's dumb?
Well, it's not authenticated for one. But I don't know. It's just like stupid. Like, here's the card, and then the case is signed. It just doesn't look appealing. It doesn't.
Listen, I kind of like the idea because it allows me to have a high-end card and then also have the card signed and wait for it. Wait for the grading of the grading. Maybe this will be tag. Maybe this will be tag's specialty. Take a PSA slab that has an autograph on it and grade the autograph and slab the slab. We already have these, cases for the cases. Why not?
How did the auctions do? Like the one card I was tracking, I don't know if you remember the Jordan jersey number limited logos card that I was just like obsessed with.
Mm-hmm.
That cost a lot of money. I think it's
the number 23 out of 50.
Yep. It finished at like 60,000, I believe. It sold for $150K before this.
So I got to tell you, it's difficult to do this because, each card's individually the same. You have one card so you can track it, and that's a good one. But that's a tough one because it's not exactly the most liquid card. But if you wanted to pull up, Market Movers, Card Ladder, whatever it is, the card that I look at as a liquid enough card that sells often enough, I have a vested interest in it. So I know the ups and the downs. That has
Montana,
I believe. I didn't look at Montana. We could look that up. No, it's the LeBron BGS 10 refractor rookie.
40K.
Right. So remember, it was down in the 30s. It was 40, and then one sold last night. I don't know if Card Ladder already has the PWCC, price loaded up for it. But one sold last night.
This is a 9.5. Give me a sec. There's the 10. 28K. So interesting. The last one sold for 40, though. I saw that on the PWCC auction.
So BGS 10.
Oh, BGS 10. My apologies. 48K?
48.
316.
48K last night, which is,
Yeah, but February 16th it sold for 50.
that was a 50. Yeah. So, but the 4 or so sales before that were lower. So I look at that chart, I see kind of like high 30s, 40, 42, 50, 48. I see that little V pattern. I see that starting to move back up. It's just me.
So this is back to the economy real quick. Are you worried that it's a hope and a prayer?
For what?
I think we've already seen a correction, right? And we've seen that market chart. Are you really, maybe percentages is a better way to put it, from that price on that card in the next 18 months, what percent chance do you think that card goes up from that price? And what percentage chance do you think that card goes down from that price?
I think it goes up from that price.
You do?
I do. Yeah, because you look at the chart, it was
months.
Yes, and maybe not immediately, and maybe not a huge spike kind of thing. But I think what we've seen here is what's the pop on that? 30 something, 32. It's not a huge pop
32
in BGS 10, right? So, and yet we've seen them sell once a month. We've seen
in a PSA 10.
So this is, there should be some separation between a PSA 10 and a BGS 10 because there's significant pop difference. The BGS 10s are nicer, allegedly. And what you're seeing there, I believe, is, enough of these cards have turned over at that 35 to 50 range now. Almost half of the pop has turned over in that range. Sure, somebody tried to call a bottom at 35 and is now going to sell it when it gets to 55. Make their money. I'm sure a couple of them. But you got to think 75%, 3 out of every 4 that's sold in the last 6 months is going to sit in someone's hands that's going to hold it and not continue to sell for a loss. I know when I bought mine higher than what it is, I've held it because I don't want to sell it for a loss. I have sold certain cars for a loss, but not a LeBron BGS 10 that's out of 32, or a pop of 32. You'd figure that one eventually would, make its turn. So is that hopeful? Sure. I'm sure there's a little bit of hopium in there because subjectively I want that to happen. But I do also think the numbers I'm not expecting a card in the next 18 months I think it sold for like $200,000, right? You can pull that back up. What was the high on that? High ones, 200. I think it was significantly high. Do I expect it to go anywhere near that in the short term? Absolutely not. But do I think
200, 221, two sales not last, man. 2021 is 2 years ago. What the F is that? When did
2 years ago, that was 200. They were selling for over 200 grand. So,
question, and then I'll give you my take. What did Black Jade Wolf say about the Dallas show?
She said it was good for creating liquidity. It was a good show with different type of liquidity than what you have here. It was a bad show for her for buying because with all the repackers there and basically everybody walking up to her table was, a pretend dealer anyway, that people were not coming up to her table and say, will you buy these? Because they knew that they could sell it to a repack for probably more than what she was going to be offering. So that was what she said about Dallas. Like the show, we'll be back.
My worry is we're seeing the last of the liquidity, and it is at the shows. You were right about that. When this whole hype started, there was liquidity anywhere. You could sell on Instagram, you could sell on Facebook, you could sell on Discord, you could sell on Twitter, you could sell anywhere. I think we see now with how many auctions online are running, it's a lot harder to sell online. eBay is strong these last few months. My wonder is, if you think about who the liquidity is, a lot of those people are self-employed or unemployed, whichever way you want to cut it. If you get Cage on a good day, so you're self-employed. If he get Cage on a bad day, it's like
right, yeah. Try to make them good. You have a lot of control over whether they're good or bad days, by the way. So don't consider yourself blameless.
I'm blameful. What happens if that liquidity dries up? Not for lack of desire. I think it's important to say that, but for lack of necessity.
Price goes down. It's easy.
It's simple. You're like, but So that's where I go. Like I'm much more cause effect than hype and all that.
Can I
stuff.
tell you
So-
though, eventually there is a segment of people who are collecting these cards to collect the cards. There are people who want, like, let's use that one for example. There are people who and I don't know if it's 32 of them, probably not because it's changed hands a bunch of times. And I don't even know if I put myself in this category, but there are a segment of people, maybe it's 10, who own that card and just own that card. They owned it when it was 10 or 15 or 20,000. They didn't sell it when it got to 200. They're not selling it now at 35. They're just holding that card. So I think why, look, it's easy for people to talk about buy low pop, buy blah, 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 buy, the number of cards, buy the serial number cards, but they don't go deep enough into why. And the why is that even if doomsday scenario that you're predicting comes to fruition, right? And there's no more liquidity and there's stuff that dries up and you name it, there is enough for the right cards, the cards that are now being preached about, call it your PMGs, call it your gold kabooms, whatever it is. There is enough collectors who are in this who want the card to have the card, not who want the card to go and sell the card in Dallas in May. They want the card to have the card. There's enough of those for the right players and the right cards where there is going to be a buyer, right? And that's not everything.
Cage always says we bring it back like we only do, and we'll wrap with this. Where do I go to know what those cards are? Is it the PWCC Iconic? Where do I start to know what those cards actually are?
That is the rub, isn't it? I think you actually started down the right rabbit hole with your Jokic stuff. Because I think what you found there was, and you're going to see how many people join the Jokic group and crew because they were expecting him to win a third MVP, and maybe he doesn't, and maybe people jump ship and hold you. But I think what you found
I might
there,
be that person, by the way.
So, but that is a great learning experience, right? Because here you are in this tight-knit group. You see the price go up because someone like you jumps into it and says, you know what? I'm a Jokic guy. But are you really? Right? Are you really? So there you go. You're heavily invested now, right? But I think the research you did with that will be helpful in identifying the Facebook groups. There's a reason why Jordan 90s inserts sell the way that they sell, because there are enough people in that group who want those cards, who want to own those cards, and there's enough of them who don't own them. So if a platinum medallion Jordan PSA 10 shows up, or whatever else, hoops, bam, slams, shows up, and it's out of 100, not the 250, because the one out of 100 shows up. There are people out there who want to add that to their collection. It's not going to go for too low. It may drop. You've seen these things drop.
What I would do, and this is going to take a lot of work, but this is what I'd recommend, is let's say you have your watch list. You could have 5 cards on a cage. Actually gave me an element of this experience, but 5, 50, 100 doesn't matter. And I would look and I'd watch those cards and I would see how often they come up for auction or for sale. And I would use that plus a secondary metric that I don't think has been given enough credit, and I want to give Card Ladder the credit. They added this thing called population report growth, where you can see the actual growth of the card graded. And it's a fascinating tool to just see what the available supply or the new supply is a better way to put it. And it's right on Card Ladder. It's really, really cool. So
one little quick one here at the end before we jump off. Remember, guys, full swing. The Beckett promotion's still running. You want to do a remember? Go ahead. Let me hear Viva Vendetta. Come on.
Remember the 5th of November.
That's it. Well, remember the 17th of March today, guys, because that's where I'm reminding you about full swing, because it only runs till the end of the month. You get the what was 140 2 to 5 day turnaround is $100 now, free ground shipping, Zion case, Beckett branded. It's a really great promotion. A lot of people are sending in cards. Do it quick enough, they'll have it back for mint, and they can bring it to Vegas and have some cards to show off for trade nights and sell whatever it is. Cool stuff there. Enjoy St. Patrick's Day, guys. Maybe by the time you listen to this, you're already you're listening to us a little hungover. That's cool. Hopefully the green beer, corned beef and cabbage was good to you. And you asked what I'm cooking. I will be. Hopefully it didn't boil over. Somebody looking at it, but I'm boiling slow little corned beef. A little seasoned up. I started making it earlier today. Threw it on there. I got some cabbage. I'm gonna throw in the boiled water. I throw a little potatoes, and we do a little corned beef cabbage. There is some Irish in my wife's family, so my kids have a little Irish there. She's half Irish.
You making that in the slow cooker?
No, just huge boiling pot of water. I have some carrots that I probably will also cook. Maybe some Brussels sprouts. We'll see.
So you use St. Patrick's Day to cook healthy for the family?
No, it's one of those days where you can, the kids can have fun with it. You know what I mean? And the traditional food, that kind of goes with the holiday. I'm not going to give Ian a green beer, although he would love it. But I mean, if I can, have some fun. It's like colored eggs for Easter. You know what I mean? And a ham.
McDonald's has McFlurries.
Yeah, they also have what's called a shamrock shake. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
But I'm not doing that. I'm doing a little corned beef, cabbage, a little roasted potatoes. Maybe,
Are you worried about the future of American ass? Because our holidays...
Am I worried about the future of American ass? Is that what you just said?
America.
Oh,
because our holidays.
Well, you said, and I ask. Okay, and you were finished. I heard. Are you worried about the future of American ass? I was like, not really.
But we're not going to get into all that empowerment and all that stuff. We're not going to go there. I'm not worried about the future of American ass. But what? So think about our holidays: drinking, gluttony, gambling is now being force fed all over.
Yep.
We have legalization of drugs. Like, thoughts on the future of American? Just kidding, KJ. I'm just messing. I'm not going to go there.
Live your life. Enjoy.
With nearly 40 years as the most trusted resource for collectors, dating back to the first Beckett magazine in 1984, Beckett has been the brand that bridges generations of the hobby. We're happy to be partnering with Beckett and look forward to keeping you all updated on the big things happening at the company in 2023. Beckett. It's the name you know and the name you can trust.